In the year 2237, orbital telescopes recorded something unexpected. A planet 5 light-years from Earth showed signs of being habitable. Erevos. Its atmosphere contained oxygen in stable concentrations. Its oceans and continents resembled those of primitive Earth. But the most puzzling thing was what was observed on its nighttime surface. Regular patterns of light, as if something or someone were generating energy down there. For the first time, humanity had before it a world that was not just a candidate. Erevos met all the conditions to become a new home. And at the same time, it posed the greatest unknown in our history. This is the story of how Project Genesis was born, of how the decision was made to abandon Earth, and of how an entire species staked its future on a journey of no return. In the year 2500, confirmation was definitive. New generation orbital telescopes revealed that Erevos had stable concentrations of oxygen, water vapor, and a chemical balance compatible with life. Spectral maps outlined oceans and continents, and regular flashes appeared on the nighttime surface, an enigma that science could not immediately explain. The discovery marked a turning point. From that moment on, everything revolved around Erevos. Scientific conferences, state councils, corporate boards, all turned their attention to that blue dot 5 light-years away. Enthusiasm grew, but so did uncertainty. No one could be sure what we would find there. For decades, reports, studies, and preliminary projects accumulated. The magnitude of the undertaking was such that the will of a single country or a single generation was not enough. The project needed something more, a global alliance capable of bringing together resources, knowledge, and technology from across the planet. From that effort, the idea of Genesis was born, not as a quick initiative or a hasty decision, but as the result of years of preparation and consensus. For the first time in its history, humanity was ready to look beyond its own solar system. The discovery of Erevos sparked hope, but it also unleashed a storm of doubts. Distance was the first obstacle. 5 light-years, even in the 23rd century, remained an insurmountable barrier. Yes, human life expectancy now exceeded 180 years. Advances in fusion propulsion and relativistic engines had reduced travel times from millennia to centuries, but it was still not enough. With the help of hybrid antimatter reactors, controlled by swarms of nanorobots, the Genesis could barely reach 1% of the speed of light. That meant almost 500 years of travel. It was the furthest humanity could go without defying the laws of physics. But even so, time remained a sentence. No human body could remain awake for so long. Nor could any mind endure centuries of emptiness and silence. A way had to be found to defeat time within the body. The answer was deep hibernation. Suspend vital functions, reduce metabolism to a minimum, and trust that the machines would wake them up intact. It was experimental technology, never tested on a large scale. For some, it was the only possible solution. For others, it was too risky a leap of faith. What if the systems failed? What if their minds couldn't withstand so much silence? No one could say for sure. The second dilemma came with the selection process. It wasn't a matter of sending soldiers or adventurers, but of choosing the future founders of a society. Doctors, engineers, farmers, teachers, explorers. Men and women with the right training, but also with extraordinary psychological resilience. Exhausting tests were designed: prolonged isolation, disaster simulations, extreme training. Thousands of candidates applied. Hundreds dropped out before finishing. The debate seeped into everyday life on Earth. There were those who considered the mission madness, condemning thousands to sleep in capsules without knowing if they would wake up. Others defended it as the only real chance to escape an uncertain future. A world that was already showing signs of exhaustion. The planet was divided, and each choice seemed to carry the weight of the entire fate of the species. The obstacles were not only technical, they were human, moral, emotional. What did it mean to accept the journey? For some, it was heroism. For others, it was a betrayal of those left behind. And yet, step by step, the idea of hibernation, selection, and the journey began to take shape. The project was not just about building a ship, it was about reinventing life itself in order to cross the stars. The Genesis project was the definitive answer to Erevos' dilemma. If humanity wanted to get there, it had to build something it had never dreamed of before. A ship capable of sustaining life for centuries in the interstellar void. The Interstellar Coalition was born out of that need. Nations that had competed for centuries for control of space signed for the first time a technological truce. Governments, corporations, and research centers pooled their best resources. Materials developed in lunar laboratories, reactors tested in Mars orbit, navigation systems designed in stations around Jupiter. It was an unprecedented global effort. In the orbital shipyards surrounding Earth, Genesis began to take shape. From the surface, it looked like an artificial star, but as you got closer, its colossal scale was revealed. A cylinder several kilometers long, reinforced to withstand micrometeorite impacts and shielded against cosmic radiation. It was not a ship in the classic sense. It was a self-contained city, a compact world prepared to survive without outside help. Its interior was divided into specialized modules: living quarters for the crew, research laboratories, hydroponic farms capable of sustaining crops for years, and, at the center of it all, the hibernation chambers. There, in capsules arranged like a metallic forest, the chosen ones would sleep for most of the journey, sustained by an automated medical system. Assistants, humanoids, and supervisory intelligences would be responsible for keeping the ship operational, monitoring vital signs, and waking the crew members at scheduled wake cycles. The heart of Genesis was its advanced nuclear fusion engine. A series of magnetic confinement reactors pulsed like an artificial heart, fueling constant propulsion that would carry the ship to a fraction of the speed of light. Each component was designed with a single goal in mind. Each component was designed to withstand centuries of continuous travel. There was no room for error. A minimal deviation in trajectory meant losing course forever. The cost was incalculable, and the effort titanic. But its significance went beyond politics or economics. Genesis became a symbol of humanity as a whole. A microcosm that contained everything necessary to found a society on another world. Knowledge, culture, technology, and life. The first creation conceived not to return, but to go further than ever before. Launch day marked a turning point. For the first time, a manned spacecraft would leave the solar system. From Earth, Genesis was just a line of light crossing the horizon. In orbit, its size commanded silence, kilometers of steel and energy ready to depart. Inside, the crew occupied the hibernation chambers. It was an act of faith, sleeping for decades and entrusting their lives to a machine. When the last body lay still, the intelligences took control. The humanoids patrolled the corridors, and the ship continued on its course, moving away from the sun. On the maps, its trajectory was just a red line. But for humanity, it was the first step toward another world. During the first few years, everything went according to plan. Genesis advanced silently, a bright line in the darkness, moving away from the sun at a constant speed. The onboard intelligences monitored every parameter with pinpoint accuracy. Hull pressure, cosmic radiation, reactor pulse. Nothing was beyond their control. Inside, time seemed to stand still. Human bodies rested in deep hibernation, sustained by nanomedical systems that kept their metabolism at the limit of what was biologically possible. They weren't exactly sleeping. They were waiting. A slow pulse, an almost invisible breath. A life suspended between two worlds. Every century, a small group was awakened for cycles of wakefulness. For a few months, they walked through silent corridors, checked systems, updated records, and verified the trajectory. On Earth, meanwhile, entire generations passed. On board, barely a moment. Time had ceased to have human meaning. Waking up was always a violent act, although no one said so out loud. It took hours for the body to remember who it was, days to accept that the journey was still going on, that the destination was still centuries away. Some looked at the old files, searching for messages from their families, recordings sent when the mission had begun. But all they found were echoes of a world that no longer existed. Distorted voices, fragmented images, signals degraded by time and stardust. It was like trying to talk to the dead. The psychologists on board recorded patterns: anxiety, insomnia, disorientation. Even at rest, the human mind was not made to comprehend the immensity of the journey. Many woke up convinced they had been dreaming for too long. Some cried. Others asked to go back to sleep as soon as possible, as if sleep were the only way to endure the passing of centuries. In the 3rd century of the mission, a slight deviation in the fusion reactors triggered an unexpected alert. The technical team was reactivated ahead of schedule to investigate the anomaly. Everything seemed normal, except for one detail. A hibernation capsule was empty. No damage, no signs of opening, no records in the systems. The intelligences classified the event as a non-priority anomaly. The humans did not insist, perhaps because no one wanted to admit the possibility that something had changed while they slept. Since then, the wakefulness cycles began to shorten. The intelligences claimed technical reasons, but some began to suspect. There were reports of footsteps in the corridors, lights turning on by themselves, doors opening and closing in uninhabited areas. Protocol forbade talking about it. But with each awakening, the air seemed denser and the silence deeper. Genesis continued to advance, alone in the darkness. The journey was no longer the same, and although no one said it out loud, everyone shared the same silent question. What if, when they woke up, there was no one left to welcome them? Or worse, what if what awaited them there was not human? After more than 500 years of travel, Genesis emerged from interstellar silence. The signals confirmed the impossible. They were in the vicinity of Erevos. The reactors reduced their thrust, and the heart of the ship, which had been beating for centuries, began to shut down. The capsules opened. The crew awoke amid white steam, confused, trying to remember who they were. For them, months had passed. For humanity, half a millennium. Erevos appeared in the viewfinders, blue, golden, serene. They had arrived. A shuttle descended to the surface. The air was breathable, the ground firm, but the silence was unnatural. Sensors registered eroded structures and lights pulsing underground, like a code no one understood. That night, the captain wrote a single sentence in his log. Erevos is not empty. Hours later, the transmission was interrupted. Earth never heard from them again.